Brave pioneers, always remember that obedience is the highest virtue. Above all, obedience, respect, sacrifice, hierarchy. These are the qualities that have been indoctrinated into the society for the benefit of Gold's rule. The society and the lie that it upholds also birthed the rebellion known as the Rising. Along with the class color pyramid, the ruling Golds have another symbol of their role in the society. A weapon that, prior to the Rising, served as an elegant and refined instrument of death, dominance, only to be wielded by Golds, who in their own eyes are the elegant and refined dominant pinnacle of society. Any other color caught handling this weapon has broken Golden law and will be punished with a swift death. It's more than just theft. The Golds deem it as treason and a direct violation of the values in their society. These hands, with the gold sigil implants of the Aureate, are deemed the only hands worthy to use this mix of ancient warfare and cutting-edge tech. This is the razor, the weapon, the symbol. Another sci-fi weapon that comes to mind when I think about the razor is the lightsaber from Star Wars. Both sci-fi swords drum up echoes of medieval combat. Humans locked in close combat with their strength, speed, and mastery of the sword, plus the added destructive power of both lightsaber and razor, would turn them into mass-killing machines. To wield such a weapon requires dedication and time to train and master, like any form of martial art, but that's where the similarities end. The razor, in short, is an extremely sharp and possibly durable sci-fi sword that can instantly transform into a long, fluid, but equally durable, sharpened metal whip and back again. To explain the dual function to its simplest point, if you ever played Bloodborne, think of the threaded cane weapon and its dual function. A simple concept, but in Red Rising, complex in its tech and mastery. It's a Pauline sword, Goodman. A razor, in other words. One moment it is soft as hair, but with an organic impulse, it turns harder than diamond. It is the only thing that will cut through a pulse shield. One moment a whip, the next a perfect sword. It is a weapon of a gentleman, a Gold. For any other color to carry it is death. The razor's blade and cutting power stirs up visions in my mind of pages from the X-Men and Wolverine comic books. Doing work with the razor reminds me of the carnage and destruction Marvel's Wolverine can cause with his adamantium bonded claws. The razor can cut through the almost indestructible durosteel and obviously flesh and bone with a flick of a wrist. The Holo shows Augustus flowing through 12 grays, like a man wading through stalks of high, dry grass. His razor sings and shrieks, sparking against the walls, sliding through men in armor till he meets another man in armor, the shade of flame. The Hearth Knight. He's a flurry of tight lunges and then red mist. A head thumps to the ground, then the two men appear, one in a sun-crested helm, the other Fitchner in his wolf head helm. Together the men kill the Stained and put Augustus bleeding on the ground. Another interesting ability is that the razor can penetrate a pulse shield. A pulse shield is a protective energy field that has been developed as a modification or add-on to combat armor, generally worn by Golds or their bodyguards. The wearer of this armor can activate a pulse shield battery-powered generator, causing a magnetic field-like aura of repulsive, electric energy. Anyone who tries to touch the person with his pulse shield on will experience a high-amped, high-voltage shock. But that can be further explained in another Peerless Lore Holo. A razor, on a molecular level, has some sort of ability to negate or overload pulse shield's field. The razor functions through some chemical energy rather than electric. It can withstand EMPs. It's unclear how the razor keeps its shape and holds the ability to toggle between whip and sword, but definitely responds to whoever wields it with some chemical reaction. From the info given throughout both trilogies so far, I think most of the tech has some nanotechnology that allows humans to communicate and stimulate the razor's tech through armor that must familiarize on a cellular level with the person inside. It seems almost lifelike when it changes shape and form when the toggle switch located on the razor's grip is activated. The speed at which it changes seems reflective as if it's part of the wielder's body. It curls in front of him, over a meter of narrow sword when solid, more than 2 meters of lashing razor whip when loose with a toggle on the handle, which sends a chemical impulse through the blade's molecular structure. Darrow prefers a question mark-like sling blade shape for his. This will become the symbol of the Rising. the weapon of the golds used against them both figuratively and literally. We'll get into this more later. Just like the vast varieties of swords forged throughout history and geography, the razor also can be made in many styles. Like an 18th century monarch with studded hilts and gold inlaid blades, razors can get as gaudy and ornate as any wealthy gold can imagine. House Ra is the gold family that rules the belt area of the solar system. Seems to take their razor design and fighting style from feudal Japan. They have developed the razor tech into the form of hastas, odachis, and katanas paired with wakizashi. They fight using a style similar to samurai forms as well. Daido's men hesitate, looking to Bellerophon for confidence. He nods them forward, and they move as one towards Romulus and his defenders, their long razors held in two hands above their heads. Diomedes lifts his rigid razor to his lips. He closes his eyes and kisses the metal. Then his eyes open, and the spirit behind them bears no kindness. When Diomedes moves, they begin to die. He skims diagonally across the front rank of his mother's men, with such possession of his body that it seems like he was another species entirely, one made of wind and wrath. He sidesteps two of their thrusts and removes the head of the one called Abius, and exchanges two parries with a thick-set woman before pulling a second, shorter razor called a katari from his belt and skewering her stomach and ripping sideways through half of her ribcage. Abius's body hits the stone and the woman stands there trying to stuff intestine and mesentery back into her abdomen before collapsing to her knees, bubbling screams from her mouth. Bellerophon and Diomedes crash together at the end of Diomedes' assault. I watch in awe and glance at Cassius. I thought he was the greatest gold swordsman left. By the look on his face, I know that presumption was shared and mutually shattered the moment Diomedes moved. Speaking of Cassius ab Bellona, his blade is a great example of a razor designed to tell conquering deeds of his family by mixing gilding with tech. Golden marks line the blade, telling the lineage of his family, their conquest, the triumphs thrown in their honor. Old, arrogant, powerful. Darrow's razor was modified with decoration showing his past life as a red before discovering it was a lie. And it rasps like a pit viper's mating call as it forms into a curved sling blade. It was blank and smooth when I last saw it, but it ripples now with images etched into the white metal. I tilt the blade so I can better see the form etched just above the hilt. I stare dumbly. Io looks back at me. An image of her etched into the metal. The artist caught her not on the scaffold, not in the moment that will forever define her to others, but intimately, as the girl I loved. She crouched, hair messy about her shoulders, picking a hemathus from the ground, looking up, just about to smile. And above Io was my father, kissing my mother at the door of our home. And toward the tip of the blade, Leanna, Lauren, and I chasing Karen down a tunnel, wearing Oktobernacht masks. It is my childhood. Whoever made this knows me. The golds carved their deeds into the swords. The grand, violent shit they've done. But Ares thought you'd prefer to see the people you love. Dow prefers the sling blade or reaping blade shape for his razor's form. The sling blade is a weapon or tool Darrow and his fellow Reds used in the mines to free themselves by severing a limb that might get stuck in a claw drill's grinders and gears deep in the mines while doing some emergency maintenance or part change. Darrow originally chose the sling blade shape for his razor because it was familiar to him, but the decision also brought so much more with it. More on that soon, but I will first explain to you what this piece of gold tech can do in battle. Amazing the power you have when you're bloody up to the sleeves and none of it is your own. The razor, like a sword, can deal violence and be extremely deadly if used by someone who obviously has the skill and strength to use it. Martial arts have been developed to utilize the stiff blade form and the whip form of the razor to its deadliest potential. He lunges for my throat. It's a feint. He whips the razor down to wrap around my leg. He expects me to recoil. I charge straight at him, inside the arch of his swing, jump over his head in the low gravity, then swing my whip backwards without looking. My whip coils around his extended right arm. I press the button that makes the razor contract, and with the sound of a frozen tree branch cracking in winter, I claim the sword arm of Cassius ab Bellona. Lorne R. Arcos is considered the greatest razor master alive at the time of the Rising. He developed his own fighting style, the Willow Way. The somewhat sacred and secret style is considered so superior that being taught the Willow Way is a privilege. Being proficient in this form seems to give you an advantage over anyone in battle. Lorne taught Darrow the Willow Way, But keep in mind, Cassius is highly skilled with a razor and has won tournaments in dueling, and this shows how deadly Darrow has become. His defense is precise, and I fought as he taught me to fight. I would die to him, but I was taught to move by my uncle and to kill by a legend. I rage and spin, leaving my feet and striking down, beating him as a great hurricane, slapping and smashing and hammering him back. And when he attacks, I bow to the side until each time that I can break him, as Lorne Arcos trained me to do. Move in a circle, never retreat backwards. No attack opens when a man allows himself to be pushed backwards. Use their force to create new angles. Flow around him. The willow way, pretty, fluid, like a spring song in defense, then lashing and horrible as the branches of a willow in deep winter as glacial winds scream down from the mountains. Inside me, red meets gold. My blade flashes between whip and curved sling blade. It crashes into his sword, and the aegis on his left side crackles from the force of my blows. Cassius falters. He's a prize fighter getting pummeled by a back alley brawler. I'm laughing madly, and the crowd around is cheering in shock. Some screaming when I hit Cassius' aegis so hard it overloads. Spark hiss from the unit on his arm. I rip open a wound there, one on his elbow, his kneecap, his ankle. I flick the blade up and slash his face. I stop and move backward fluidly, posing with whip as it slithers into a curved sling blade. Those who watch this will never forget. The Aegis is an energy shield used in gold duels. That and the Willow Way can be a whole video on their own, and we'll discuss that in another Peerless Lore Holo. In this scene, we see Darrow defeats Cassius, a gold highly skilled with a razor. The Willow Way gave him an advantage in this fight, but I also think he was using an unfamiliar weapon shape learned in his mining days as a red to become victorious. This, right here, is the epitome of Darrow's strategy in fighting the golds. Take gold's way of life and tech and destroy them with it, by using unfamiliar, outside of the gold's box strategies. The golds who originally conquered Earth were vigilant, but years of being the dominant part of society has made gold complacent and stagnant. Cracks begin to show. The golds, in their established society, have elevated the razor beyond just a weapon for war and dueling each other. It is a possession exclusively allowed to the Oriate. Just being part of the ruling class alone allows one to own one. It's a gold status symbol. Even in the most protected, highly secured areas, like the Citadel of Luna, razors are the only piece of tech allowed inside. The razor encompasses gold's way of life: elegance, violence, vanity, domination. Augustus murmurs. His sharp face surveys his aides, as if making an accounting of the razors we carry. Some wear them coiled at their sides, others wear them around their forearms like I do. Tactus and Victor each use them as sashes. We glimpse other processions through the trees, see their standards, great flashing things of moving fabric and metal. A red and gold lion crest roars in silent challenge. A raven on a field of silver marks the passing of family Falth over a cobblestone bridge. We eye their lord and his lancers warily. As a matter of course, all carry razors, but other tech is forbidden. No data pads, no grav boots, no armor. This is a classical affair. In gold society, if one's honor is insulted, one can challenge another gold to a duel, as explained to Darrow after his carving. And it was your manner that forced me to draw my razor and challenge you, thereby precipitously ending your impotent life. You may have fought me with fists for honor in that hovel you called home. You were a bug then, an ant. An Oriate fights with a blade at the slightest provocation. They have honor, the likes of which you know nothing about. Your honor was personal. Theirs is personal, familial, and planetary. That is all. They fight for higher stakes, and they do not forgive when the bloodletting is done. As mentioned before, the razor has been etched into society's mind as a gold weapon and only a gold's weapon. The weapon of the highest class. The class that controls progression of technology and humankind. The refined use and obnoxious displays of gold culture is wrapped into society surrounding the razor. One of the low colors, the obsidian, has been bred to believe the razor is the weapon of their gods. The obsidian has been bred and groomed to believe that the golds are gods. Their gods wield the razor and can never be used by mortal, lesser hands. Ragnar Valaris, a freed obsidian slave, is handed a razor by Darrow. This divisive decision will serve not only as a necessary, in-the-moment tactic to the current battle they're in, but shows society and especially the obsidian that golds are just men. This event symbolizes the curtain being pulled away. There is no powerful wizard. The Golds are not gods. They are just men. During the early days of the Rising, the razor has become a symbol of defiance. The sling blade shape of Darrow's razor became a symbol of defiance during the Rising. He took Gold's distinguishing weapon out of their hands and cut society free of Gold's oppression, just like the sling blade cuts a red free from being trapped under a claw drill in the mines. The razor slithers through the air, so beautiful, so deceitful in its promise of power. The blade would tell me I'm a god, as it has told generations of men who came before me, but I now know the lie in that, the terrible price it's made men pay for pride. The weapon of the Golds used against them both figuratively and literally. Darrow slowly sees that the roots of all colors come from the same place. He discovers a link through red culture and gold culture, specifically razor fighting. Later that evening, I researched the dances I performed. Polymedes is Greek for child of war. It is a dance that reminded me so much of Uncle Nero's dances. It is the Gold's dance of war, the one they teach young children to prepare them for motions of martial warfare and the use of the razor. I watch a Holo of Golds in battle, and my heart falls into my stomach. They fight like a summer song, not like the thunderous, monstrous obsidians, but like birds banking into a fresh wind. They fight in pairs, swerving, dancing, killing, ripping through a field of obsidian and gray as though they were at play with size, and all the bodies that fell to them were like stalks of grain that sprayed blood instead of sallow chaff. Their golden armor shines, their razors flash. They are gods, not men. One dance, the Polymedes, has a nostalgic feel. Matteo has me hold a baton as I move in swirling steps, baton arm outstretched as though fighting with a razor. Even as my body moves, I hear echoes of the past. I feel the vibrations of the mine, the scent of my clan. I have seen this dance before, and I perform it better than all others. It is a dance my body is made for, one so very familiar to the illegal reaping dance. You can almost theorize that Gold saw the reaping dance as a way to secretly train others in self-defense with a sword, or a razor. The razor is both the symbol of Gold's domination and downfall of their iron rule. Like Darrow taking the power of the razor for his own and using it against Gold, the Rising used the Gold's stagnant way of life, tech, bureaucracy, and their arrogance to break the chains of society. I hope you liked this video and you found it informative. If there's anything else you'd like us to expand on in terms of the razor, let me know in the comments. There's so much to cover and also to discuss, so let me know what you guys like to see. Thank you for watching.